Your soul shall be mine.
You asked for it.
Alright, so I'll keep the 1-drop, I guess. No need to be keeping 4s. Oh no, not this hand. Give me something good, Babbling Book. Okay, well, that card is literally nothing. I guess if I draw Mana Worm, it's a turn 4 Mana Worm as a 2/3. Maybe that hero power should have gone face, because he's making the trade 100% of the time, and then I want to play South Sea Captain. Oh, okay, cool. Well, I'm happy I pinged last turn. Smack that in there. I don't think there's any reason for me to trade in the book here. If he has Mortal Coil, he can just hit the patches anyway. Leave my options open, I guess. That's not good. At least he's Zoo instead of Control. I think I'm actually going to Hero Power here, rather than developing the Ice Block, or the Ice Barrier. I just think the Ice Barrier is so worthless. And with this line of play, I don't think he's very likely to trade into my patches. And maybe Cobalt Scalebane can buff the 1/1. He did opt to kill it, which is probably correct. But I thought there was a chance he might not. I guess I'm just going to play the 5/5 here to try to slow him down. Probably playing Blizzard into Frost Nova into the 8 mana 4/7 into Alexstrasza. This could still very easily be a win, even though I'm so far behind on board. Okay, him buffing his taunt is a bit of a bummer. So my choices here are either Blizzard or Frost Nova Mindbreaker. Preventing him from tapping might be kinda nice, but if I go for Blizzard this turn and then Frost Nova the next turn, I do have the option to play a 4-drop instead of this 3-drop, and it's not like the Mindbreaker attacking next turn is really gonna do much. Well, maybe it attacking next turn is relevant, because I can put 2 damage on the Voidwalker, then the Blizzard puts 2 damage on it, and then if I get 2 more damage with the next Blizzard, it could be relevant. And stopping him from tapping is pretty nice. Although, I guess... no, that doesn't make sense. Because I have the turn after I play this to attack with it anyway, even if I play it next turn. Right, so that's just dumb. And this way I'm open to drawing like a Water Elemental or a Spellbreaker, which means that I don't need the Blizzard to be the first thing I pull off my 8-drop. Conjurer. So the real question here is, do I play Conjurer instead of Mindbreaker? They have about the same amount of stats. Preventing him from tapping could actually be very relevant. I think I prefer the Mindbreaker, actually. I think I'm actually favored as long as I don't draw either of my spells. 1 Frost Nova, 1 Blizzard left in the deck. Okay, that guy's kind of annoying. Obviously play this guy. And getting the 2 damage there looks good because of Blizzard. Oh, that sucks. Oh, it's only a 6/6 actually. I was thinking that would make it have 7 power. So I'm pulling a Frost Nova. I don't have to worry about his board. Send these in here, get the Alex in play. And then I have Leroy, which is usually lethal.
What to do? What to do?
I guess I actually don't trade this guy in here, because I don't want him to tap for Bone Mare. Do I ever play something other than Alex this turn? And just develop all of these. This guy will die. I can Alex him down to 15. I think having the 8/8 on the board is pretty important for lethaling him next turn. So I want to stop him from tapping, I'm pretty sure. Although, him tapping does do damage to him, but I think I'm just fine. Like, I think I have enough damage. I don't need him to take the life tap damage. Ah, the Doomguard. Oh, he's still dead, actually. Trade this off, and then Leroy Hero Power does it. Oh my god. That was a photo finish. I'm really glad I cut the Argent Commander for a Leroy. Although I did have Silence for his taunt. I think that was one off, though. Oh well. Got there.
Your soul shall be mine.
You asked for it.
Don't think Tar Creeper is quite a keep. Not when I could be drawing Prince Keleseth or something that summons patches. Or even the Spiteful Summoner.
Side effects? No. Trust me.
I'm gonna go ahead and play the Captain here. I don't have a turn 3 follow-up, but I don't exactly have a turn 2 play either. This goes ahead and gets the Mistress off the board, gets me a 3/3 in play, and sometimes I draw into another 3-drop. I do have 4 more in the deck. It's also good if I draw a Keleseth or Mana Worm next turn even. And it's real good if I draw Captain. I think I just pass here. If I hit my Captain in, then he can trade into my Captain with the Tar Creeper. I guess that's just 3-drop for 3-drop, that's not too bad.
Side effects? No. Trust me.
I probably do want to save my Spellbreaker for a Void Lord in this matchup. So I think I'm going to ping this and then trade off. I don't get to spend all my mana here, which is a bummer, but I get to keep both of my captains on the table. I don't really need to play the Mirror Image this turn, even though I could if I wanted to spend all my mana, so I'll just play Water Elemental. The O2s are probably just Defile fodder in this matchup. Okay. He probably doesn't mind committing the coil, but at least he had to. Flame Strike. Blizzard's okay too.
I am the blade of the goddess.
Is that even good for 6 mana? 6 mana, 9/8. Why don't I just play Bittertide Hydra? Okay, he is Q block. So I think I'm playing Bone Mare here. Say I put it on this guy, trade in there. I have 2 4s and a 5. I guess whatever I'm putting it on. Yeah, I mean, this one's the only one that really makes sense, right? They basically have the same stats, but this wastes 1 less damage. And this doesn't play into any of his AoE, at least not directly. Could be like Hellfire, Defile, or something. There's the Skull. So, if Doomguard comes out next turn, it's probably not that big of a deal. If Void Lord comes out, I do have the Spellbreaker. I think I'm just going to play Scalebane and hit him in the face. Get the ping in there. And I'm going to choose not to play the Mana Worm because it gives him a 3 health Defile thing. There's the Void Lord. And this is why we play Spellbreaker. Well, I didn't get to do anything cool with my spells that game. I guess the Spiteful Summoner did a thing. Sometimes you just beat him up, though.
You asked for it.
Oh, it is on.
So this does give me a 2-3-4 curve, but with Keleseth, kind of hoping to top deck good 3 and 4 drops. If I mulligan, I'd be happy to find any of my 4 1-drops. I'd be happy to find either Southsea Captain, either Corridor Creeper. And then cards like Tar Creeper and Mindbreaker are pretty even. So I think I'm just favored by mulliganing here. Favored to find plays that are at least as good. I would say this hand is significantly better. Although I do hate to see the Blizzard. Hate to see the Frost Nova too. It does buff the Mana Worm though. Maybe it gets played on turn 3? Okay. See? Why do you play Mana Worm with no spells, they ask. Because it gets Frostbolted. Also, I'm drawing all of my spells this game, which is awful. I guess it would have been good if he didn't have the Frostbolt. Jesus. I think I actually would have been really tempted to Frost Nova here if that Mana Worm is still in play. Just to give it +1 attack.
What to do? What to do?
So it's looking like this probably is a control deck. I do not have a good draw to beat control, and I think in general I'm actually pretty unfavored against control mage. And certainly with this hand I'm unfavored against control mage. No? Just a really slow deck? Or a really slow draw from that deck? It's pretty sketchy. Well, let's go ahead and pull the 3/3 charger. 3 mana 7/7 partial charge, no big deal.
I'm late. I'm late.
Wow, he actually is just Secret Mage. That's so weird. Well, I think one of those is very often Counterspell. I don't really want my worm to get Explosive ruined. Could get this guy ruined instead. Is there anything to silence in that deck? I don't think there is. Whatever. Oh god, I'm so dumb. I forgot the whole thing where, you know, I can't Frost Nova to go with that. Oh well. Playing the worm out instead of the Frost Nova might have just been the better play anyway. I was planning to play Frost Nova though. That's annoying. Oh my god. What is this hand? I've drawn 12 cards.
An incredible discovery.
You grasp the infinite, Mage. You play with fire, child.
My magic will tear you apart.
What's this one do? I tried this.
Well, on the bright side, if I Blizzard him 2 turns in a row, he might assume that I'm playing only the Blizzards and then my Frost Novas can catch him off guard. I guess. Silver linings and whatnot. I think I'm gonna have to Frost Nova to check for Counterspell this turn though. No, I'll probably just play another 8 mana 5/8.
I'm late. I'm late.
You play with
It's like when you draw patches. I should just have another card in my hand, and his board should have been frozen last turn. That's a tilter. At least I don't take any damage from this.
Yes.
An incredible discovery.
We have many secrets.
Excuse me, you are on fire.
Joke's on you, punk. I've got even more freezes at my disposal.
The power
He's played both of his explosive runes, so I probably should be concerned about counterspell. And I'm not going to take this attack here because it damages my guy and gives him 2 armor. Next turn I can just silence and then Blizzard. And get this 5 damage in, don't give him the armor, don't damage my dude. Hopefully he like hero powers one of his guys and then plays a couple wisps so that my Blizzard makes my Corridor Creeper cost 0 mana. But that's probably not very likely.
Excuse me, you are on fire.
I guess that's probably another counterspell, huh?
The power is
Well, if my Blizzard gets counterspelled, I obviously just lose.
your magic shall not save.
Oh, it didn't get counterspelled. I probably don't beat that, though. He's at 26. Well, he's almost out of cards. I mean, I'm probably just dead here. I haven't really been tracking his burn because I just assumed I'd be dead. If he didn't have me there, though, I had 7 of Leroy, 17 on board. He was going to fatigue for 1, 2, 3. Actually, still didn't have lethal if I did the math right. Damn.
Jane versus Arthas. For Lordaeron.
You asked for it.
Got a 1-drop, definitely toss the spells.
You want to cast a spell? I want to cast a spell.
Polymorph. I mean, sometimes they play like a big Blessing of Kings minion. Could be relevant. If he's a slower deck, it's obviously good for Tyrion. Sunkeeper Tarim is probably the optimal polymorph target in this matchup. Okay, if he's a Murloc list, then I might just polymorph a War Leader on turn 4.
Spells are fun. So fun.
Go face with the book. He could like taunt to protect that guy, but if he's playing Righteous Protector, I'm just going to play Mindbreaker into it, not Hero Power. Probably just not going to Hero Power anyway, just Mindbreaker. Corridor Creeper, that's what I like to see.
Trouble.
Okay. That's pretty bad if he has like more Murloc synergy to follow it up, but on its own, 1/4 Murlocs aren't that strong. Wonder if I should polymorph this guy. I think there's just way better targets in the deck. I'm just gonna play this. And then take a little bit of a trade there since his 5/4 can just one-shot my guy anyway. I think I'll polymorph here. Maybe I made this play too quick. There are the Spike Ridge Seeds to deal with. Well, I think I've committed to this line of play, even though I might regret it. I know some of these lists just don't play Steed, they play Dino Size and Spiteful Summoner. Actually wouldn't mind drawing one of my freezes. That's pretty good, actually.
Your magic shall not save.
Alright, so we took, what, 4 power off the board? Pretty good.
Pinch of death cup. Heal of shoe.
Okay, he does play Steed. In my experience, getting 6 drops off that isn't super strong. It's a pretty good 6 drop, though. Hopefully I can land a Bone Mare this turn. I guess with Corridor Creeper I always can. Man, Corridor Creeper is a card. I don't think that deck has any answer to my 8 mana 4/7. I think he just has to sit there and eat the freezes. I guess Spike Ridge Teed is kind of an answer. Easy turn. I could have not hit his guy hoping to Blizzard the thing. But yeah, sometimes I hit Frost Nova and I want that thing to be dead so I can hit him next turn.
The menagerie is for guests only.
That guy is annoyingly large. But I don't really have to worry about him, he just like gets frozen and stuff. I guess I don't have to play Alexstrasza here. I can play this guy. I'll just play these. And I don't want to put damage on my 4/7 because then maybe it dies to like a Rallying Blade or something, and I don't want that to happen.
Pinch of death cup, heal of shoe.
So Alex has to be lethal, right? Oh, it's actually exact lethal. I thought it would be closer, or I didn't think it would be that close. So I did burn the Polymorph and the Spellbreaker, maybe a little bit irresponsibly that game. But if you just look at the ending board state, I was so far ahead, he couldn't do anything to stop the freezes, and I still had 2 more freezes coming down. So I think given that I had the guy in my hand already, it was justifiable to play the Polymorph and the Spellbreaker, and I think I might have just died if I didn't play either of them, so... Definitely some different lines I could have taken that game, but obviously it worked out. I hope I was able to offer enough compelling gameplay to fill out 2 parts in the series. I really like the deck a lot, I feel like it does cool things, but the playstyle of the deck is pretty one-dimensional. So it's a little difficult to find 6 or 7 or however many games that are sufficiently different enough that they're still worth watching. And that's kind of the reason that overall I've just made more of a shift to 2-parters instead of 3-parters. Very often I felt like part 3 was a little bit forced. But anyway, let's talk about this deck specifically. I went through 3 major variations of this deck. There was the first variation where I was still in testing trying to figure out what worked. And that was before I even really started recording with the deck. In that stage, I was playing, like, not Alexstrasza, and I think Alexstrasza is a pretty important card in the list, having played with it for a bit. And I was playing, like, 2 copies of Shifting Scroll. Shifting Scroll kind of makes sense in the deck, because the 8-mana 4/7 won't cast an uncastable card. So even if you have 2 of these in your deck, you still always hit the freezes. And it's sometimes a spell that you can draw. And it's kind of nice to have access to spells when you can't really put any other spells in the deck on purpose. But the problem is this card just sucks, you can't play it the turn you draw it. And sometimes it turns into Shatter or whatever and you can't play it anyway. So this card just kind of sucks. And with this first version of the deck, when I was still testing different things, I went 9 and 16, which is obviously not very good. And then the second version of the deck, I made some changes so I could accommodate Spiteful Summoner. I cut the 2 Frost Novas, or like I tried out a Flame Strike, I tried out 2 copies of Greater Arcane Missiles, and I just didn't really like it too much. Spiteful Summoner is obviously a very powerful card, but I kind of feel like when your highest roll is a 6 or 7 mana spell, it's just not really quite worth it. Like, even if you hit a 10 mana spell like the Mind Control in the Priest deck, sometimes you just low roll and get Yogg, but sometimes you high roll and you get yourself a 12/12. When you're hitting 6 and 7 mana spells, you still have the potential low rolls, getting like a 4/4 or whatever. One time I actually got a Lanessa Sunsorrow, which was a huge bummer. But then you don't even have the ridiculous 12/12 high roll. So I just don't like it that much in a deck with such a low mana cost spell count. There's also the problem that it makes your 8 mana 4/7 a lot more sketchy. I think I said this at the beginning of part 1, but there's a huge difference between Blizzard freezing your opponent's board and Flame Strike just not killing their Draconaut operative or whatever. I really prefer the consistency out of this guy, and I don't think the consistency is worth diluting for the Spiteful Summoner. With the Spiteful Summoner versions of the deck, I went 3 and 6, obviously not very good. But then we move on to this version of the deck. the version that sticks to the double Blizzard, double Frost Nova. We've got all the broken neutral cards, and we've got Alexstrasza on the top end. And with this version of the deck, I actually went 9-5, which is a pretty respectable win rate. The thing about just offering up that win rate, though, is that this deck is extremely matchup dependent. Like, you just destroy Zoo and Murloc Paladin all day because they just can't handle the freezes and they can't deal with your 4/7. But if you queue into, like, Highlander Priest, the entire synergy that your deck is built around just doesn't do anything, because they don't care to put minions on the board, they just kill all your stuff. Like, yeah, you do have some counterplay, just like playing big stuff that they can't deal with and killing them, but I think your Highlander Priest matchup is pretty bad. So as a nod to the Highlander Priest matchup, I did end up putting a Mindbreaker in the deck. I don't actually know how powerful this is, but this deck, considering you have to play 24 minions, not including the 8 mana 4/7, you do have some kinda weak minion spots. I was playing a Void Ripper in this slot originally, and I don't think there's anything that's too significantly better. And if this guy can help with the Raza Priest matchup, that's pretty nice. It also does okay against Control Warlock, because once they get Gul'dan on the board, that 3 damage lifesteal hero power is pretty nuts, especially since we don't play any burn to get through it. So if Mindbreaker can shut that down, that's pretty nice too. And just in general, if you're freezing their board over and over again, then you're kind of just locking out like half of what their deck can do, so they tend to gravitate toward their hero power, and then you just shut down their hero power. Maybe even a second Mindbreaker would be pretty good. I ended up cutting the Bloodsail Corsairs for Babbling Books. Obviously, Babbling Book has less stats, it doesn't pull patches from your deck, but I really like to pull patches with South Sea Captain, not with a 1/2. And there really aren't that many weapons in the metagame that Bloodsail Corsairs Battlecry affects. Like if you hit Aluneth or Skull of the Minari, like it just doesn't do anything. And Babbling Book, since you can't play that many spells, it gives you some more spells to work with, and it also supports the Mana Worms a little bit better. Could also look at trying maybe a Firefly in this slot. I also ended up cutting the Argent Commander for a Leroy. It's a little bit worse on the board, but it's better as a finisher. And the thing that sold me on it is, you can play Alexstrasza when they're at 30, set him to 15, and then if Alexstrasza lives, you need 7 damage, which is Leroy plus hero power. So in theory, Alexstrasza plus Leroy is a 2-card win condition. And then I think I did have one Spellbreaker originally, but I cut a Ghastly Conjurer for another Spellbreaker. And that's mostly just because of all the Control Warlock lists running around with their stupid Possessed Lackeys and Void Lords. You just want to silence that stuff because you do have to hit the opponent in the face since you're not playing Fireball. Overall though, I think I'm pretty happy with how this list turned out. I think there are definitely still some flex slots that you can play with. The 2 Babbling Books can be switched out probably for other 1-drops. Mindbreaker's not core, even the Ghastly Conjurers are not really core. Spellbreakers are tech cards, and then like maybe Leroy you could swap out for something else. I think everything else is pretty core to the list. One thing I considered but didn't actually try out was cutting Keleseth so I could play 2 copies of Arcanologist and then play like maybe a couple copies of Ice Block to go along with it. So for one, Arcanologist is just a super high power level card, and 2, if you're playing 2 copies of Ice Block, you're very often going to just have one in play when you go into your 8 mana turn, and this guy will only cast actually castable spells. So I didn't actually try it, but I believe if you have an Ice Block in play, and your deck is 1 Ice Block, 1 Blizzard, you'll pull the Blizzard 100% of the time. I believe that's how that works. But it's still a little bit risky, because you're not always going to have the first Ice Block in play, and hitting an Ice Block off this guy is a lot worse than hitting a Frost Nova most of the time. I think it's probably something worth considering though. But yeah, I think this deck is actually reasonably strong against minion-based decks. Things that just can't deal with this guy and actually care about their board being frozen. But if you're just queuing into like Highlander Priest over and over again, just don't bother.